What's up guys, I'm Nathan and in this video I'm going to be showing you guys the best characters that you can buy for 3000 boss rush tokens in Roblox Anime Dimensions. I myself just finally got 3000 because I decided to stop wasting it on mythical cards. But anyway, the characters that you can choose between for boss rush tokens are going to be Alice, Kokushibo, Gilgamesh and Broly, and I'm actually going to be showing you guys in character testing plays like all of the abilities, the average damages compared to like my other average damages with my own cards, and I'll actually be doing this on a points basis. Like I will be assigning points for each of the abilities and each of the things like AoE, damage, mobility, etc. For each of these characters, it's going to be out of 100 points. I'll also be giving bonus points if they are meta for something, just because it would be more worth to buy. And let's go ahead and showcase Kokushibo's moves first. So Kokushibo's first move is called Moon Gazing. Let me just quickly turn on no cooldowns just so I can easily show you. And basically what he's going to be doing is just using 3 of these slashes. It actually does one of the highest moves, actually the highest move damage compared to the first move of the other boss rush characters. For me on average it does around 520k damage, which is kind of it's kind of average. I mean, characters like Esper do way more damage. But the cooldown is only 6 seconds, which is definitely on the faster side, because the average cooldown for first moves is usually around 7 seconds. So yeah, once again, I'll show you this move. And it's got quite good range, as you can see. Like, it's still hitting these dudes from all the way here. So it's got pretty nice range. Overall, I would give this move a 7 because it doesn't have a huge AoE. As you can see, it's missing this guy over here, but it does have good range. Let's look at the second move now, and his second move is actually quite good. It's called Loathsome Moon, where he basically does a slash and it's gonna create this sort of tornado kind of thing right there, and it's got pretty nice AoE and it actually does a lot of damage. For me it does around 600k, which is good considering the cooldown is only 10 seconds. Overall, I would give this move also 7 because I mean it's nothing special. I mean, you're not locked in place, but you're not like moving faster. It's not giving you any kind of special ability like you see in those new characters, but overall a pretty nice move. Now the third move and the fourth move are what makes him kind of good. His third move is called Lonely Moon. It's got a pretty fast cooldown for at least compared to other third moves. It's just 12 seconds, and as you can see, it's a dash move, and it will actually, if you see closely, it gives you iframes and you of course dash, and it does reasonable damage. It does 700k damage, which is kind of average, I would say, for a third move. And because it dashes and gives you iframes, I will rate this move 9 out of 10. And his final move, Catastrophe, as you can see, it's a movable ultimate, which does increase his mobility a bit, because most ultimates do keep you locked in place, and in addition to being movable, you do get iframes. Its damage is above average. It gives me, with my cards, 1.85 million damage. I would say the average ultimate damage for me, like compared to other boss rush and raid characters, is around 1.8 million. It's also got a pretty like average cooldown. It's not too long. It's got a 45-second cooldown, which is pretty nice. So overall I will give this move an 8.5 since it does give you a bit of mobility, but there are quite a few ultimates that do give you more damage. For his assist, since it's not actually hitting in front of him, most of the meta assists of the quality like Gilgamesh and Broly, where they actually have a huge AoE in front of you. I'll show you what I mean later. But since his ultimate, which is going to be his assist, is just all around him, it won't help you as much in wave clearing, at least in Dimensions. So his assist I'll have to give a 7. AoE overall is also a 7. The damage for the most part is just above average. It's nothing crazy. That's also going to be like 7.5, I would say. Mobility is definitely one of his strengths because of this dash skill and because of the movable ultimate. So mobility, I'll give him an 8 because, you know, characters like Sunken Wu where you can literally spam dash do exist, so I can't really give him higher. Cooldowns are also definitely on the faster side. Maybe his second move is a bit longer on cooldown, but most of his moves do have a faster than average cooldown. So mobility, I mean cooldown is going to be an 8. And iframe, since you get one iframe here and an iframe here, so iframes is a 7. So he's not meta for anything anymore, so no bonus points. In total, Kokushibo gets 76 points. Now we'll look at Broly. Alright guys, we are here with Broly now, and his first ability is called Eraser Cannon. Basically, yeah, it's just a short range projectile which kind of explodes, a little bit similar to characters like Gojo and stuff. And yeah, I mean, it doesn't lock you in place, you can still move, so that's fine. It does around 450k damage from you on average, which is not bad because its cooldown is just 5 seconds, which is actually not bad. The AoE is kind of medium. I mean, okay, it's actually not bad for a first move, but the range, as you can see, it's got a reasonable range. It's still hitting even from here. So yeah, overall a reasonable move. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. The second move, Planet Gazer, is actually a pretty nice move. It's got pretty good range. So as you can see, it's a gain of projectile. It doesn't lock you in place, but it's got a good AoE. And see, I can even hit him from here, and that's some pretty good range. Okay, yeah, now my combo isn't going up, so that's about the peak of his range, but still a pretty good range. And as you can see, these shockwaves, that's basically the maximum AoE it has, which is actually really good for a second move. This also has a 10-second cooldown, which isn't too bad. It does about 675k damage on average, which is also quite good, a bit higher than Kokushibo's second move. So overall, I'll give this move a 7.5. It's definitely better than average. The third move is called Gigantic Cannon, and this is kind of an oomph for its mobility, Broly's mobility, but it does do pretty nice damage. And I mean, it gives you iframes. Look, so I get iframes, and as you can see, that's the range, which is quite nice. It's got good AoE, it's got pretty nice damage, about 850k, but the cooldowns are a little bit bad. It's gonna be 19 seconds, which is a bit over average. Most of the cooldowns, most of the characters that have cooldowns over 18 seconds for their third move actually have special abilities like Esper and Eren, where you can spam, but he doesn't really do anything special. He's just locked in place, but he will give you iframes. So overall, I'll give this move just a 6.5, mainly because you are locked in place and damage isn't too special with kind of meh cooldowns. His ultimate is pretty nice. Let me show you. It's got huge AoE, and this is what I was talking about in hitting in front of you. It does have a bit of a wind up, but as you can see, that AoE is massive, and it's hitting in front of you, so you can clear large groups of enemies at once in Dimensions, even with his assist. So the only thing is there is a bit of a charge up, which is why Gilgamesh is actually more preferred as an assist for Dimensions. But this character is actually one of the best assists to use against bosses, just because it does a lot of damage. This is the highest damaging ultimate out of these characters. It does about 2.2 million damage on average, but it also has a longer cooldown at 50 seconds. But overall, I will give this move a 7.5. You're not locked in place for too long, and of course you do get iframes. There are some moves that keep you locked in place for way longer, so this isn't a bad move overall. His assist is going to get a 9 out of 10 because it is, of course, somewhat a meta assist. It's used quite a bit against bosses. For AoE, it's going to be a solid 8 because all of the moves have quite nice AoE, as you can see. Like, all of the moves are just pretty good on AoE, so he's going to get a solid 8. Damage is also on the higher side. It's going to get another 8. Mobility, well, he literally has no mobility, but just so that it's straight up not fair, and Kokushibo and characters like that don't get way too much ground, I just gave it a 4 because I just, for mobility, for characters that have no mobility, I'm just keeping it at 5, and if there are moves that keep you locked in place, I'm deducting. So yeah, he gets a 4 instead of even 5. Cooldown is going to be a 6.5 because his third and fourth moves do have longer cooldowns than average, which is kind of a bummer. And iframes, yep, he does have iframes for fairly long duration, so for beginners not bad because this move gives you iframes for pretty long, and so does this move, the third and fourth moves. So iframes is going to be an 8. So now in total he would be getting around 72 points, which is lesser than Kokushibo that got 76. However, I'm giving it a +5 because it is actually a meta assist. So yeah, Broly overall is gonna have 77 points. Kokushibo is better technically overall, but Broly is meta at something, so overall Broly is more useful, and that is Gilgamesh's first move is called Aim Shot, and he's basically gonna shoot a lot of arrows wherever you're aiming your character. So here using shift lock is more optimum, and as you can see it's got a reasonable range. It's hitting them from here as well, and it's got a pretty reasonable cooldown. It's got a 5-second cooldown, which is definitely on the faster side. It's got okay AoE as you can see, but it is not hitting that many enemies. Like, it's missing this enemy even though they are really close together. However, if you kind of line them up like this, then it's hitting a lot. And another interesting thing to know about Gilgamesh is that his M1s are a bit different. As you can see, they are arrows, and I'm hitting each enemy multiple times with M1s. So his M1s are actually better than the average M1, which is really interesting to know. Overall, his first move is gonna get like 7 because it does around 450k damage on average, which is, yep, pretty average I would say, but it does have faster than average cooldown, so a solid 7. Bombardment has some really nice AoE. Basically, in a circle in front of you, it's gonna shoot a lot of those arrows, and look at that. As you can see, it's hitting those enemies even up till there. So yeah, pretty good AoE. It even does good, reasonable damage. It's doing 475k damage. That may seem like less, but his cooldown is really fast, coming in at just 6 seconds. So his first 2 moves actually are really fast for cooldowns. So because of the cooldown, I'm gonna give this move an 8 because it's got good AoE and a fast cooldown. So it's kind of nice to use even as a main. His third skill is called Gate of Babylon. It's both a very good move and kind of a meh, just because of the cooldown. His cooldown on Gate of Babylon, basically you're locked in place with iframes, but you do a lot of damage, as you can see. Like, you're locked in place, but it even gives quite a lot of pet energy. Look at that bar go up. So it's actually a really good move. However, it has a 24-second cooldown. It does about 950k damage on average, which might seem like a lot, but once again, take note of that cooldown. Overall, I'm gonna get this move a 7 because you also do get locked in place, but at the same time you get iframes, so it kind of cancels each other out. And finally, let's look at the ultimate. One of another very good thing, and the thing that makes this better than Broly's, because it has a shorter charge up. As you can see, he's almost immediately dealing the damage, and this doesn't last for long. Like, see, I can already move. So yes, you are locked in place, but not for too long. And this move does pretty good damage, about average I would say. It does 1.8 million damage, but it also has a faster cooldown of around 45 seconds, and it also has pretty good AoE. So overall, this move gets a 7.5. His assist is another 9 because it is in fact a meta assist. AoE overall is an 8 because all of his moves have quite good AoE except maybe the first one. Damage is going to be a 7 because it's actually a bit on the lower side if you're counting the damage per second of each move, because his moves have kind of maybe slightly above average damage, but some of them are also having way above average cooldown. So the damage per second is a little bit below some of the other boss rush characters. However, it's still above average. Mobility is going to be a 4, just like Broly, because one of the moves does keep you locked in place, though it does give you iframes, but yeah. Cooldown is going to be a 7 because the first 2 moves are really fast, but the next 2 moves, I mean, okay, the ultimate is decent, but the third move is like really slow. Iframes is another 8 because you get a fairly good duration of iframes. You already saw Gate of Babylon and Enuma Elish will give you reasonable durations of iframes. And in total, it would technically be 72.5. However, he is a meta and he's used even more often as a meta assist. I gave Broly only +5 because he's not used in Dimensions. However, this character is useful both against bosses and especially in Dimensions. So I gave him like +7 for meta, and that would put him at 80 points in total. Even if I give him just like Broly, it would still be at 77.5, which is still better than both Broly and Kokushibo. And yeah, I mean, you already can see clearly here, Gilgamesh is in fact the best boss rush character. But anyway, for the heck of it, let's look at Alice, who we all know is probably the worst boss rush character. The first skill, Horizontal, has a 7-second cooldown, but it is a dash skill. So surprisingly, Alice's first, well, okay, this is not a dash clearly, but like, well, it does give you mobility, so that's something. It's got a 7-second cooldown. It does a bit lesser than average damage at 400k, but I mean, since it's a dash skill, I'll give it like 7.5. The second skill is called Light Arc. This, like all the other second skills, does have pretty good AoE. It's like kind of like Naruto's first move, but bigger. It's still hitting them. From here, it's hitting them. Yep, that's about the peak of her range, but it's still a pretty nice AoE move. Yep, it got all of those guys there, so it does okay damage, 500k, but it does have a fast cooldown at 7 seconds, so overall not a bad move. I'm giving that 7. The third ability is called Luminous Rays. Once again, it keeps you locked in place, but this move actually does a lot of damage. It does about 1 million damage. However, it has a 25-second cooldown, and it does keep you locked in place. But of course, the good thing is you do have iframes. Overall, I'll give this move a 6 because, well, the cooldown is kind of not that good. The ultimate is called Eternal Garden. This is the biggest, well, thing that's okay about her, but at the same time the thing that makes her trash, because the other moves aren't even that bad. But Eternal Garden, as you can see, you are stuck in place, but this move will actually heal you. Every hit you do, it's gonna heal 1% of your HP. You can't see that now because I'm in testing, but it's got a pretty nice AoE. But it has a 50-second cooldown. That's really bad, and it has a and it only does like 1.15 million damage, which already you can see it's like around 700k damage worse, which is actually a lot. Like, you are losing out on an insane amount of DPS, and that's why when you use her, she feels really underwhelming. And there are plenty of gem characters like Primordial that in fact deal more damage, which is why Alice is not that good. So this move is gonna get a 5 because it does heal you. As an assist, because the assist won't do much damage, I'll just give it a 5 because it has reasonably good AoE, but I don't think her assist will heal you. AoE is a 7 because, well, yeah, all of her moves have reasonable AoE. Horizontal, yeah, that's decent. Light Arc, pretty okay, but not great for wave clearing. This move does have decent AoE, and of course this one, well, probably above average, but nothing too crazy. Damage is definitely going to be just a 5 because it's just really underwhelming compared to some of the other characters. Mobility is going to be a 6. It's not going to be a 4 like the others because, well, she does have a mobility skill, so that helps, I guess. Cooldown is going to be another 6 because the first two moves actually have better than average cooldowns, but the third move just really messes it up, and so does the ult. So it's just gonna be a 6. Iframe is gonna be 8.5 because, well, it does also heal you, plus it gives you a lot of iframes. Overall, I mean, this character is obviously not meta, so it's only gonna it's not gonna get any bonus points. So overall, it has 64 points, which is way worse than the others. So to summarize, Gilgamesh is by far the best. It's got 80 points overall. Broly and Kokushibo, it's kind of, it depends. Broly is better as an assist, so if you've already got a very good main, like Esper, Kokushibo is not necessary, and Broly would be in second place with 77. However, if you don't have a good main, then before Broly you should get Kokushibo, which has 76, but the main reason that Kokushibo is behind is because he is not meta. But if he was meta for something, which, or rather if you don't have a better alternative, then Kokushibo is actually quite good. And of course, in last place is going to be Alice with just 64 points. So that's pretty much it for this video. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know if there's any other videos you want to see, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya.